going to sew the complete back. We have the back pocket, so we're going to take the pins out of that. We have the back itself, so we'll take all those pins out. And we have the back yoke. Okay, so we're going to have those 3 pieces. All right, now, remember that template? Remember this template? This is now we're going to use it. So we're going to lay it right on top. So I'm going to open this up. I have a left and a right. So there's my back of my body, my back jean, okay? So I'm going to lay this right on top so it matches. Okay, so it's matching the top, the double notches, the inseam, the back rise, everything. Okay, I'm going to use chalk and I'm going to mark where my placement, my pocket placement's going to go. So I'm just going to put in a few marks here. Okay, you don't want to put one across here because then you're going to see it when you finish with the jean. We don't want that. Use chalk because that washes out. Okay, so it looks just like that. All right, so then we're going to flip this over and we're going to do that, the same thing on this other side. Okay, so there's my marks. All right, now the next thing is before we set the pockets to the body, we're going to hem them and press them. So we're going to go to the sewing machine, and again, you have the notches, and you're going to fold, do a double roll on that, double top stitch. You can do a double top stitch or a quarter stitch. And then we're going to go to the iron and press, okay? Pause. Go. All right, so we're going to hem this just like we did the coin pocket, just a double roll. The notch is right at the top. We're going to do an edge stitch where it's folded. Now, if you want, you can also do a double needle top stitch by just edge stitching the edge here, and it'll look like a double needle. So now it looks like a double needle top stitch. Okay, you can do that. So we're going to do that with the other one as well, and then we're going to go to the iron and press. So I'm going to sew this one real quick. And I want to do a double needle on this one as well. I'm using 2 different colored threads. Normally, you would not do that. You would use the same color thread for the bobbin and the top thread, but I use 2 different colors just so that you can see the difference. Okay, so now we're going to go to the iron and we're going to press these. All right, so just like we did with the coin pocket, we're going to turn this up a 1/2 inch, turn the other side up a 1/2 inch. Now this is a Western style pocket, so we're going to fold the bottom up a 1/2 inch, and then the other side up a 1/2 inch. Okay, and so then your pocket should look just like this. Okay, and then you're going to do the same thing to the other pocket, and then we're going to go back to the sewing machine. All right, so again, like the coin pocket, you see that you've got that hairy edge just kind of hanging out, and that's ugly. So we're going to trim that down, get rid of that. Do that on the other one as well. Get rid of those little corners. Okay. All right, so now we're going to place this pocket onto our marked pieces. So I have my little marks. So I'm going to lay the pocket down so it's covering those marks. Now, I want to explain to you while I'm sewing this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sew an edge stitch all the way around and back tack, and then if I wanted to, I can do another quarter stitch to make it look double needle, and you'll back tack at the top. Okay, the reason we use the chalk and not drill holes like normal. Denim, when you put a hole in the denim, it just keeps on getting bigger and bigger and bigger. It frays every time you wash it. It leaves a weak spot in the corner right here, and eventually your jeans are just going to blow out. Okay, so what we do is, instead of putting drill holes, we use the template and write it in with chalk. And what that's doing is eliminating the drill holes. Okay, we do that on the coin pocket as well. Sometimes because the coin pocket's so small, we don't really need a template like we did today. We just did we just sewed it on because we matched the notches. Okay, so there's my pocket. Now, again, if I want to do a double needle, I can do another quarter stitch all the way around, and then make sure you back tack here so that, you know, it doesn't fall, it doesn't tear off. Okay, so we're going to do that with the second one as well. Again, you lay the pocket down, matching on top of your chalk marks. So the chalk marks are covered. Okay, and then do your edge stitch again. So again, we're going to back tack. Okay, you see I'm doing a few stitches by hand when I get to the corner here so that I get it right on the edge. Okay, so now I'm going to back tack, and I'm done. All right, so the next thing is we're going to sew the yoke onto each leg. There's your pockets. All right, so next step is we're going to sew the yoke on. All right, so these are the yokes. You have a left and a right. Okay, so make sure that if you are just using the canvas, there's no right or wrong side. So you need to make sure that you have a left and a right. Okay, so now see these double notches here? Remember the pattern piece that we made? It had to have those double notches. We're going to match those double notches with these double notches. Okay, so when we lay this down, we're matching the notches. Now, one of the biggest mistakes that I've seen in when sewing this denim jean is you don't do these notches. So now you don't know if this is going to go this way or if it's going to go this way. Okay? Because you don't know. There's no notches. So if it's done like this, it means that your back rise is way too low and your side seam is way too high. So that's incorrect. Okay? The back rise is higher on the yoke and the side seam is lower. So again, match the notches, and if you don't have the notches on your pattern, good luck. Okay, notches are really important. Okay, so I'm going to match that up, and then I'm going to sew a 1/2 inch seam. So the pattern pieces are face to face, right sides together. And then back tack. Okay, so there's my yoke. Okay, so we're going to do the other side, same thing. We want to make sure that we're matching the notches. That notches, those double notches match these double notches. Line them right on top of each other, and then we sew our 1/2 inch seam. Okay, now we have the yokes done, top stitching. When you look at your own jeans, a lot of times you're going to see that the edge stitch or double needle or whatever it is on top of the yoke. Sometimes you'll see that the edge stitch or double needle is on top of the jean. So it all depends on what way you turn the seam. Or if you turn the seam down, then you edge stitch onto the jean. If you turn the seam up, then you edge stitch to the yoke. Does it matter what way you do it? It really doesn't. When I was working in the industry with in a jean company, some designer had some theory that if the jean or the seam was facing down and you were sewing onto here, it made your butt look thinner. That I don't know. So that's all up to you. Just make sure that you do both of them the same. Okay, so I'm going to sew onto the yoke. So I'm going to fold the seam up so it's on top of the yoke or under the yoke. And I'm going to do an edge stitch. So I'm edge stitching right here. And I want to pull that so that it lays nice and flat. Okay, and if I choose, I can do a double needle. So I'm going to do another quarter stitch and give it a double needle top stitch look. Again, that's up to you. You can just do the edge stitch or quarter. So now I'm going to do the other one. So the other one, I have to, again, I want it to go the same way. So I'm going to fold so that the seam allowance is under the yoke, under the yoke. And I'm going to do my edge stitch. And then I'm going to do my quarter stitch. When I do a quarter stitch, to make the two stitches a 1/4 inch apart, I'm going to line up my first stitch line on the outside of the presser foot here. And that's where my eye is going to be. And I'm going to guide that. And I will do a perfect 1/4 inch or double needle top stitch with the stitches being a 1/4 inch apart. So as you can see, that looks nice and clean, the double needle, okay? All right, the last thing that we're going to do on putting this together is now we're going to sew the back rise together. So we're going to place the jeans on top of each other, and we're going to place them face to face or right sides together. We want to match the yoke. Okay, we want to make sure that that matches. And if you want, you can pin it right there just to make sure that it matches. So you want the yoke lines to match perfectly. Okay, so I'm going to put a pin right there just so that it doesn't slide. All right, so now my seam allowance is a 1/2 inch. So I'm going to sew a 1/2 inch seam allowance, back tack. Take the pin out. Okay, and then I'm going to match up the rise here and go all the way around. And then back tack. Okay. So now I want to do some edge stitching as well on my jean. So I'm going to open this up. Okay, notice that the back rise or the yoke here matches because I pinned it. Okay, so now I want to do just an edge stitch down the rise, the back rise, just like I did with the front rise. So I'm going to fold the seam allowance so it's to one side. Okay, and then I'm going to edge stitch right here, and I'm going to do that all the way down. Okay, so I can straighten this out, this rise, straighten that out so I get a nice even seam here, edge stitch. Okay, so there's my back, so it's finished. So I have my pockets, my yoke, I've edge stitched here the back rise, so the back is finished.